bit of all your business operations, your repayment liabilities, if, for example, if you've gotten a loan, and your crop yield estimations. So this section on money management is financial advice for small scale farmers and startups. So it's quite detailed in terms of exactly what you need to know. So it is therefore important to also assess the resources that you have available by answering the following questions and also exercises. So you can do this at your own time. Um, the notes will be shared with you. So first of all, determine your capacity levels. Number one, can I afford to buy farming inputs? How much money is needed to break even? How will harvested produce be taken to markets? How much produce is expected to be sold from the portion of land that you've utilized? What is the basis of these calculations, and are they reliable figures for forecasting? So eventually you get to a point where you can forecast, where you can tell. So it just requires you to actually do the production, actually do the planning so that you know a little more better. And then so which crops to plant advantageously to maximize on market and market fluctuations to avoid losses. So if you received the other document, you'd be able to know that there was the planting calendar. So that one was quite detailed in there, when you need to do what. So that just helps you, especially to maximize your market, and what is the markup on produce sold and things like that. How updated and reliable is the information I have obtained from market? And then how to budget for your expansion, your diversification, production, and processing. So you find that a lot of how we do our farming, maybe you've gotten, for example, your gratuity, you've gotten some benefits. So you have a lump sum of cash available, which gives you an advantage. Maybe you've gotten a loan, maybe you've partnered with people, maybe you've saved up for you to have a lump sum of finances, and that's how you go about your activities. So it's just important that whatever you budget for, you also kind of know the finances available, how to plan around that. So money is the backbone of any business. So whether it's your farming business, whether it's any business that you have, know that money is your backbone. So another thing is which I've always had strong emphasis on, is the financial record keeping. So in the group today, I shared, someone asked how we do some of our filing, some of what we do, and I shared that with you. I shared the photos with you. So that's a way just to keep your records, to keep things in order. So the management of financial recording systems should align with your business strategy and objectives, and it is therefore essential to found your business discipline on organized financial records. So the reason for cultivating a culture of strict discipline in maintenance of financial records helps ensure uh, helps enable your business to, basically accurately record how much money has been received, how much money has been spent, to identify which crops are profitable and when. If you check the Excel sheets, there are also months. So you can actually check which months you did better in, which months you didn't do so well in. And so these are things that you keep over time. And then you get to understand market trends. You get to understand when things are doing better when. So whether the business is making profit or loss, to compare previous periods to current periods, and also just to identify your weaknesses. So it also helps you improve on your budgeting, your planning, and decision making. And this is where a lot of us fall short. You find we don't follow the how we're doing our records to the latter. So it's just a habit that you should get into, whether it's having a diary, whether it's putting your receipts in a sleeve, whether it's keeping somewhere where every time you buy something always get into the habit of asking for a receipt. There are some places that don't give receipts, but always just ask, oh, can I have my receipt? Others will tell you, oh, wait for your receipt. So just make sure you wait for your receipt. So adequate records also enable you to secure loans and financial assistance. So that's key. And I think we've already talked about this, hardcover books, Excel sheets, stationery. So that's important. And opening bank accounts might be necessary once your activities are profitable to differentiate personal income withdrawals from those of your business transactions. So you can also do a business account for your business, and all that is entering goes into the account. But it's also key that even as if you do register your business, when you're not making money, file nil returns. If you make money, however little it is, just also try and pay your taxes so that your books and your compliance in terms of your taxes. So an example here, it just shows daily cash receipt book entries. So you can enter all of these things. So these are just examples if you want to do it this way, but there is the Excel sheet. And then cash flow and profitability. I think we didn't really touch on cash flow, we just basically spoke about it. So the business of environment of farmers is unique compared to other business ventures because the farmers' resources derive from nature, and the extent to which they can cultivate and control natural processes such as production cycles are governed by forces the farmer has very little control over. We have little control over the rains, we have little control over the climate, we have little control over maybe like a floods. So there's so much we have little control over. So production cycles affect profitability. So it's important to therefore grow various produce to synchronize production cycles to profitable market demands to merge and stagger production cycles into consistency. So what you have to do is planning your cycling. Like we said, you can stagger your production over time. You can just see ways in which you can do your production. For example, like planting every 2 weeks, planting every day, planting once a week. So those are ways in which you can do your production cycles. So production cycle planning and market conditions are critical in achieving profitability. So there's an example of some of the activities. So example of a crop calendar to demonstrate the length. So maybe the planting period is October, November. Then your weeding and cultivation and fertilization is December, January, February. Then your crop matures and begins to dry out, and then you get into a harvest period. So those are just some of the examples, especially if it's like grains. So the basic calculation for profitability is determined by calculating inputs and outputs. So where outputs should be greater than inputs. And this is an example of a simple profit and loss statement. So your inputs are your variable costs, seeds, fertilizers, insecticides, wages, electricity costs, and then the calculation of your revenues is the value of your produce in kilograms times market price, and then you basically subtract, and the value closing inventory calculations is value of produce stored at the end times the marketing price. So that illustration is there, and you can also you can also see a format of a cash flow. So this is the sales, what comes in. Then you have your wages, other sources, other things that are coming in, and then you do money going out, other expenses, and then you see. So there is a cash flow format if you want to do your cash flow. So you can see what goes in, what's coming out, and then you are able to do a simple profit and loss. Sorry, I'm just trying to control the movement of the slides. It's moving quite fast. So So on this side, there's even an example of an illustration. Cattle, maize, sunflower, sheep, total farm output, then your direct costs, your total direct costs, and then you do the subtractions and you get the amount. And then there's also farm gross margin, and then you're able to see whether you're making money or you're not making money. So there is the illustration with the profit. So you can do a simple profit and loss statement. So cash flow forecasting is based on estimates, and the accuracy of cash flow forecast relies on how precise forecasts are prepared in relation to current production capacity, incorporating the worst, the average, and best case scenario. So that's what is important. So how you can do your cash flow, you can basically just have estimations for, let's say the price is, you're trying to do a cash flow for cabbage, and you know your costs, labor, power over a period of time, and then you say, okay, in a month maybe our power costs are 2,000 kwacha if you're using maybe Zesco to do your irrigation. And then you say, okay, we spent about 5,000 kwacha on seedlings. Okay, our labor costs per month are about 3,000 kwacha. So for example, and then you can see how to do your profit and loss. So your direct costs, and then you also have your fixed your fixed costs. So that's just a way that you can go about it, and just see what works best. We have a hand up, Madam Emma. Okay. So that example is there. So these are some of the things that you can just be practicing in your own time. And some applications may tell you, oh, prepare a cash flow, and you can do one. If you want, you can engage an accountant. And then, like I mentioned, working capital, savings, and borrowings. So often it's tempting to use cash required for business expenditure. You divert it for family. Maybe someone in the family has a problem, there's a funeral. So you divert the business money, or you use it for personal things. You need something, you need to urgently buy something. So it's essential to manage working capital needs by calculating how much money is needed for inputs or received from outputs during the week. So the remainder cash can be used for your family expenses, causing very little disruption for business production. Because that's what happens. You find you eat your capital, you've done your business, you eat everything, the profit, the capital, and you're stuck. So it's important that you try it. By all means, it can be difficult sometimes, especially when you're tight on cash. You end up diverting resources, problems you find out of nowhere. Your cousin needs something, or this one needs this, or just problems just arise, and such happens, especially when you have a bit of money. That's when problems begin. So this is an illustration. So what you can do is cash available from my business at the end of the week minus cash required for the business next week, and then loan repayments if you have anything, you put aside, and then money I have left for family, and then you have savings, what you want to save, and then money for family to spend. So you can see what you can spend, what you can spare. So it's just also an example of how you can do it. So some of these things you can just like go through the notes, have a better understanding. And then working capital format, money I have collected from selling this week. So you can just put all the money you've collected. So maybe it's daily income if you're selling every day. Things I have bought to use in or sell in my business. So what is bought, and then other expenses that you have, and then you see what's available, and whatever is available, you push towards working capital after you've minused everything that you need to pay for. So the advantage of a savings account is interest earned from the savings. However, cash loses value and interest gained might only reflect current value of cash in future periods. So livestock, if you have cows, if you have goats, this is also a good way of saving. Although they are less liquid than cash, they are biological, and processes can optimally be maintained, controlled, resulting in growth in value and an additional stream of income. So if you can save with livestock, that is also that is also a good way. So there are different ways of managing your working capital, and basically working capital is one of the most important things that you have to have as a business owner. And it's one thing that we are also striving to ensure that we don't run out of working capital, because that just makes our operations even more difficult. And sometimes you have everything you need, all the infrastructure, but what you're lacking is really that working capital. So to be eligible to qualify for loans and overdrafts from financial institutions, you may be required to present your financial statements. So audited financial statements is also like an added advantage, but things like a cash flow statement, some of these things, you don't necessarily have to be able to do it yourself. You can hire an accountant. Like I mentioned, my sister is the accountant. So even the last templates, she's the one who made them. I did not make them because she does a lot of the accounting stuff. So if you want, you can always engage an accountant who can help you with cash flow statements, profit or loss, because they have a better understanding of how to do it. Statement of financial position. What is your financial position? They'll be able to show that, okay, you're in a good financial standing. And then management accounts, so they know these things better. So a business plan, you can have a business plan, so it's a profile of your business, background, your business incorporation documents. You can put all of those if it's a very detailed one. Some maybe add title deeds, but obviously copies, if you're going to submit them, you don't submit your original documents. And then collateral pledged or property or assets if it's a loan, but an honest assessment of the business capacity to repay loan institutions is usually conducted. So because of default on payments, they lead to repossession of business property. And once successful, the terms of repayment should be split between direct and indirect costs involved, and they are managed accordingly and should be considered before applying for a loan. So don't just go in applying for a loan. Know your financial standing, and that's one thing for me. One thing I'm doing, it's mainly farming. So for me to want, unless I know that it's guaranteed the money I'm going to get, I could consider a loan, but it would be one of the last options. It's better that it takes longer, that you're, struggling, because farming is very unpredictable. And I've seen people getting loans, they lose property, they lose a lot of things. And when, if it's your farm that is being repossessed, your assets being repossessed, it's terrible. It's very traumatizing. So it's just best that even if you struggle a little, it's better you struggle. There are loans, there are, oh, God always makes ways in which we can eventually get to where we're headed. But if you're not sure of, how to go about things, a loan would be the last option, unless you know that you have another back for in case things don't work out. So my advice, if you don't have a backup, that should be the last thing you try and get yourself into debt, especially for a business like farming, because when things decide to go wrong, they go wrong. So, finance of machinery and labor force. Land, farm labor force, and machinery is the heart of farming activities and production. So the farming implements required depends on the scale of production and the supply arranged with your customer and market demands. So basically, what you use in terms of farm labor force is also dependent on your market, your customers. So at the most fundamental level, farming tools needed are shovels, hoes, forks, axes, just all these tools, human effort. They should be accounted for and maintained for maximum use to improve labor efficiency. So various options can be adopted to support production needs with regard to land prep and crop management. So efficiency, machinery is efficiency, finding the most efficient way to do stuff. Human labor sometimes is not very reliable. So however, the need to expand will require the use of heavy machinery. So if you're expanding, if you're trying to do bigger things, you need machinery, or step up from handheld tools to maybe animal power for plowing. So there are advantages and disadvantages with regards to owning or leasing. So possession of heavy machinery and land obviously increases the value of your business, which is more attractive to people who want to give you money, because if they're counting assets, they're counting, oh, there's a tractor, it's valued at 500,000 or it's valued at 300,000 kwacha. So, however, costs involved in maintaining these assets should be accounted for. So, if you have a tractor, service it. You have a truck, service it. You have anything that requires servicing on your farm, service it. So, servicing and maintenance of your assets is also very key. So, keep that in mind. Get in the habit of servicing whatever needs to be serviced and just manage your assets well. So the recovery of capital or outlay investment will be linked to an expected increase in output, which will not be realized immediately and may take several years. So, for example, you buy a tractor, you might not be able to pay back for that tractor with one cycle, maybe to take a year. And I was discussing this with someone who got a CEC loan for machinery. They actually got one um for equipment. So it's just important that you know, oh, would whatever I'm doing be able to pay for what I'm getting the loan for? So have that in mind as you plan all of these things. So conservation farming methods. So restrict tillage of land to be precise where the crop is being sown, are ways in which are good there. It's also good for the environment. It's also just good for whatever you tend to do. And then there's the cost benefit planning too. So costs of change, so any cost that will be incurred, and then benefits of change is any income that will be gained, any income that will be lost, and then to be any income that will be saved. So if B is greater than A, we should increase our profit as a result of change. If A is greater than B, we have less profit because of a result of change. So that's a way you can look at it. If you're trying to weigh the costs, you can put, oh, okay, if we forgo this, so you can just think about it. So for example, extra costs are depreciation. For example, you get a tractor, it's an asset that depreciates in value, right? Maintenance and repairs, and then extra costs are like your production costs, and then extra income is increased yields. And then for example, income loss, maybe your maize crop replaced by groundnuts. Cost save, maize seed and fertilizer area replaced by groundnuts. So you have to also, as you are planning certain things or maybe changing your production lines, look at the costs of change and benefits of change, and then you weigh it out. I hope that is a little clear, but this is also explained. Basically, what is called, there's also what they call a partial budget. And a partial budget just shows you when you'll be able to pay back for example, a tractor or whatever it is, especially that it's a depreciating asset. But a lot of this, you can engage someone in finance, and even these who are just still greenhorns, especially for simple things, they'll be able to help you, so that even if it's a high cost to get an accountant at that level, you can also just engage these university leavers. Certain things like cash flows, the basic accounting stuff, they would be able to assist you with. So cash flow forecasting is based on estimates, and the accuracy of cash flow relies on precise forecasts in relation to the capacity that you have, best and worst case scenario. So those are ways that you can project your cash flows, and a cash flow plan is usually one of the requirements to secure a bank loan, because they need to see, okay, how are the cash flowing, best case, worst case, medium case scenario. Then we've been talking about risk. Farming is a risky industry. It was actually rated under the one of the top 10 stressful careers, or careers that can actually lead people to committing suicide, and farming was in the top 10. So that should just show you that yes, it's also very risky, and factors that dramatically influence productivity or profitability: rainfall. So if you don't have a backup for irrigation, rainfall is what you depend on, and it's a risk. Then soil conditions, you don't test your soil beforehand. Buy your spray programs. Planting timelines, you don't know, you don't have a proper planting calendar, you don't know how to do market demand forecasting, and you plant and the market crashes. Cost of inputs, you just find, look at how we've had the war has changed, increased our cost of production. There are companies who depend on crop protection or raw ingredients from other countries. So I was talking to a friend of mine who's in a chemical company industry, and he was basically saying that because of the war, the cost of raw materials has gone up. And for them to produce some of the chemicals they make, especially where the chemicals originate from before they come into Zambia, it's costly. And what does that mean? It means that when the costs go up, farmers then get affected. And labor shortage. In some areas, people complain that there's no labor. And what do you do in an instance of labor shortage? Product prices change. Government policies, for example, maybe you are planning to, it's the time when maybe there's a ban on certain imports coming into the country. All of a sudden, the ban is lifted and your prices drop. Financial position, also very risky. Like, you're not in a good financial standing, you can't really manage whatever you've decided to grow. So risk management in terms of risks, of the risks listed above, means mitigating risk to acceptable levels. So the costs involved in mitigating these risks should be budgeted for and planned for, which could otherwise increase expenses and reduce income. So the following examples serve as methods to mitigate risk. So crop rotation system helps to reduce the spread of diseases. And for example, maybe you're doing your rotation, but that time you do your rotation, the prices are bad. So it's also risky. Then growing a variety of crops that help that have a profitable yield is also a way to mitigate risk. Planting with the right cycles. Waste management to ensure inputs are used effectively. So for example, instead of watering with sprinklers, you decide to use drip, so it's more efficient drips at the point. And then maintaining stocks of chemicals, fertilizers, and spraying equipment, just management of your assets, inputs, and all of those things. Market demand, so you analyze by cash book figures, previous harvests, identifying your trends during seasonal changes, and picking up a market strategy. Supply contracts, so once an agreement has been reached, the price um the price can be negotiated. um Sorry, the price can be negotiated, so this eliminates the price changes in open markets. So you can get into agreements. For example, we've been talking about restaurants, lodges, all these other places, small supermarkets, where you have prices, whether the market goes up or crashes, you maintain those prices. And then, for example, construction of fences. If you have a neighbor that has wandering animals, you manage the risk by having a fence. Storage rooms to avoid things from being stolen. Insurance to reduce exposure to loss and damage of assets. The costs should outweigh the cost should outweigh the benefits, which is security of assets to be kept for future use. So just, keeping all your assets well. And then financial risks arise from borrowing, which can be managed by cash flows, plans to map out possible scenarios, and reducing prudence by selecting the worst case scenario and planning for it, especially if you get a loan and see you can't pay it back. So reserves cushion businesses from running underground. So grain stores and livestock are means of reserves. Although these do not cover every eventuality, they are fallback in times of shortage. So money management is at the core of your business, at the core of all your farming activities. So these are just ways. If you can't do some of the things on your own, get help, get an accountant, simplify your life, talk to people. If anyone needs an accountant, I can share my sister's details. Should be happy to assist you, especially when she has some time available, because she's in informal employment. But in terms of doing a cash flow, in terms of helping you with an audit, if you're at that stage in your business, she can help you even manage your record system for you, how to manage everything. So she's very good at what she does. So that's another person. If you ever need to engage someone, um, you can engage her. There's a time we were doing an audit and she did the audit first on her own, and then we took it to um another auditor, and the auditor wanted to hire her. So she's actually an auditor. So if you need someone to assist in terms of that, you can get that help. If you know of an accountant, or these who've come out of university, those are also very helpful. So I will share these notes, and if there's anybody with a question, you can ask. Is anyone able to get me?
Yes, we're able to get you.
Okay, because it was saying that my connection is lost. Okay, so I will share these notes and you can just slowly go through them. I know some of the things may have been a bit, but it's just kind of a repetition of the importance of managing your finances, managing just managing what you need to manage. And then I think I haven't touched on markets very clearly. We have spoken about it, but these are the detailed notes. Um, so, as a farmer, a major challenge that farmers face is finding markets once they have produced. I know sometimes you may hear people say, find the market first, or you hear someone say, no, don't produce, find the market first. But sometimes you have to produce, and then the market will want to see what do you have. You can't really tell them, oh, I'm able to produce this for you. They've not seen it. So that also just becomes a challenge, and that's why it's important, like most of you are, especially here, most of you are understanding market trends, the planting calendars. That just gives you an idea, so that even if you produce before you have found the market, you kind of understand that there is a market. So the market operates according to the laws of supply and demand. So we understand that if supply is very high, the price is low, and if supply is low, the demand is high. And if you have a set contract, whether demand is high, whether supply is high, if you have a fixed contract, the prices stick. So, especially when we have our fixed contracts, even if the market price is great, we already have a market and the price is just average, just there, we know. And the difficult bit is that you know you'd even make more money by selling out of your contract, but because you have this agreement, you have to own up to it. And the goodness with such agreements, especially supplying of chain stores, even when the market price crashes, they'll still be buying at that same price. So that's one good advantage of contracts. So one important thing to do is conduct a research. So you go in, you see how these things markets operate, and quality is the biggest factor that is considered. Without you having to explain your produce or having to explain why it looks the way it looks, the quality speaks for itself. So I can give an example. The first product we ever supplied to Shoprite was tomato, and the buyers for Shoprite are what they call Freshmark. So Freshmark got so we told them, oh, we have tomatoes, and it was now speaking to the buyers. They got our tomato and they said, okay, bring samples of your tomato. We took samples. So we didn't know what exactly they were doing with the tomato. So they put the tomato out on the shelf. They wanted to see the shelf life. They just let it out because we were growing hybrid seedlings. We were doing quality management in terms of fertilization and all of those things. They left the tomato for about, I think it was a week, and they were able to see the shelf life. And that's how we got in to supply the chain store. So that was years ago. So it is not a very easy space, especially if you want to supply the biggest chain store in Zambia. It's not a very easy space to maneuver. But it may seem possible, but you just need to be determined. I've got a friend who was trying to supply ShopRite for, I think it was almost 5 years. And the only time he managed to get in was when there was a shortage of cabbages, and he managed to somehow find himself there and become one of the suppliers. So that could be another way to maneuver if you want to find out who their procurement officers are for fresh foods. You set up a meeting with them, you go to them, you set an appointment. Some places, the security guard will not even let you go through. That's how difficult it can be. But some places, they can tell you, oh, okay, you want to set an appointment, you can set an appointment, and then you propose what you'd be able to supply, and they could ask you for samples. So sometimes, if it's not a difficult market to penetrate, or maybe it's these other places, they'll also ask you to meet their quality control officers. So the QC officers, quality control officers, will will advise you what quality is required, how to pack it, how to pick it, and all of that stuff. They will tell you. And the procurement officers will also, or the buyers will also advise you on the varieties you need to grow to meet their standards. So, for example, you want to supply tomatoes, hybrid tomatoes, quality tomato seedlings make the cut. If you decide to grow like these OPV tomatoes, the likes of Tengero, these easily rot, they have a lower shelf life, they're cheaper quality seedling. So quality of seedlings is very key. So you want to supply the chain store. What is required of you as a farmer? So I'll send you this so you have these details. So you need to be a registered business. So even if you're not a limited company, you can also be a sole trader, but be registered. Have your details and profile ready so that they can know what your company can do, what your company can grow. So you have all of this, a company profile, your product lines, have that. You set up a price list in which you can negotiate on certain prices. So your price list, you put green beans, price per kilo, tomato, crate or price per kilo, carrot, all of these things, price per kilo, or or however you do your packing. Or maybe they'll tell you, this is how we want our things to be packaged. So for green beans, we would supply loose beans, would also supply packaged beans. There's a way the beans should sit in the pack. They'll show you. There's a way the beans should be harvested. The heads should be kept on so that it doesn't lose its freshness. There's a way they would want you to pack your spring onion, clean your spring onion, how the roots should be cut, how everything should be packed, sealed, and all of that. So they explain these things to you. Others require a water sample to make sure that you're not watering your vegetables with contaminated water. They'll ask you to carry a sample. Make sure you pick the best so you have higher chances of being chosen. Branding or packaging, uh, have a different packaging. So branding or packaging be different, have a packaging of high value. This will fetch you more customers or the likelihood. Others decide that they'll give you their packaging. So for uniformity, like shops like ShopRite, the likes of Pick and Pay, they have the uniformity in terms of packaging. So they'll make you buy packets so that it looks the same all across. And a couple of years ago, I did a little test. Well, it wasn't even a test, but I kind of discovered people's patterns and how perception is really a big thing, especially as a farmer. So there's a time that I went to the market. We went to deliver with the refrigerated truck, and clients kept flying in because their perception of a refrigerated truck means it's straight from the farm, it's fresh, it's just that quality because it's from the truck. Then I went to the market and the vehicle was doing other stuff. So I was just like any other vendor with no vehicle. And it was difficult to sell compared to when I was in the truck, but I'm the same person, same seller, same vendor. So perception of even the consumers is everything. So I noticed that different, that actually moving with the truck gets people wondering, what's in that truck? What is there? What are people rushing to buy for? Oh, it's fresh, it's straight from the farm. So you can also have a slogan for your business, so you can, you know, have something that you say, um just something nice, short. This just helps in terms of how you position and put yourself out there. And then an important point to make sure of is taking advantage of, even open markets, and also to be able to produce for open markets. And this is emphasis, you have to understand how the market operates. You need to know how it operates, how it works, how they buy, what kind of people you need to talk to, what you need to do. So each market has its own way of how it operates. Go there, go and see, just visit. And one thing I've come to understand in terms of the way I learn about stuff, I am researching about markets. Go and learn, go and ask as many questions, talk to as many people, talk to farmers. I have lots of conversations with farmers, and it's all on markets. That's like our end goal, the market. How do we have a better understanding of the markets? Talk to farmers, talk to people in the markets, talk to marketeers, talk to traders, talk to people in farmer unions, those interested in joining a farmer union association. Let me know, especially in your area. These are things you can be part of. You can be a part of a farmer union. You can be a part of So yeah, those are the tips. These are certain things that you won't find people really telling you. No one will really tell you. The time we started farming, no one was telling us this. We had to figure a lot of things out. And figuring things out costed money. Figuring things out, things went wrong. So these lessons just, help it. You won't find a lot of this information out there. And people gatekeep information. People don't share. So these are just ways you can try and just see. And the most important thing to do to improve your marketing strategies is, bypass the middlemen, get direct to the customers. Especially when I was learning about Soweto market, and I was even reminding myself of how I managed to break into Soweto market. That time it was difficult to move with the truck. I mean, what we were producing wasn't as much, and even smaller transport. I used public transport, went to the market, didn't even know where I was going, didn't even know who I was selling to. I went with one of the workers, and we were on public transport. And someone from the market saw the produce tied up, and they asked, "Oh, what are you selling?" And they said, "Oh, we have okra, we have green beans," because you're also trying to manage your costs. And I was also trying to test the market. So I didn't want a situation that I could not handle. And I went to the market. And obviously, you meet crooked people, you meet all sorts of people. I started making relations with the buyers that my agent introduced me to. So I would bypass him, I would go straight to the buyers. So I got to make lots of relations with the vendors right there in the markets, make phone calls. "Oh, I'm coming at this time. Come and collect your produce at this place." At times, it would be a situation where I find a transporter and send my produce straight to Soweto. We've built that relationship, and then they just send the money. And then I would obviously do a pre-survey on prices, consult other places. "Oh, the price is like this." So you eventually do make those relationships. When I was selling lemons, I had frequent. I bypassed the middlemen, went straight to the vendors, and the ladies who would buy lemons would even be able to tell that the lemons came from me, because we have, like I mentioned, we have quite a lot of lemon trees. And these lemon trees are are trees especially that they help with an income, people who buy lotions. So a long-term plan, medium-term plan, plant lemon trees, hundreds of them, find ways to water them, establish them in the rain season. This will be another source of your income. And you have, like this year, I wasn't even around during the harvest for lemons, but we had people taking them as far as Kasumbalesa. And I mean, the prices weren't that great, but for something that we don't manage to that degree, they flower, they produce lots of fruit irrigated by the rain. It wasn't a bad deal. And that just helped with our costs. And think beyond the supermarkets. think of social media as a place as well to market what you have, to market what you do, to market your business. So before we get into the branding bit, I don't know if the notes for branding are here, but I'll share them. But before we go any further, oh, I'm so sorry that I was not beaming the market notes. So there are market notes and the money management notes. Before we go any further, do we have any questions? Do we have any questions, any contributions? Let me check the chat as well. Okay, is everybody okay?
Yes, well, okay.
Okay. Let me just see what else has not been shared. Um, just a moment. Okay, so we can look at branding and branding, how to brand your business, why it's important, to brand, why it's important to just put your work out there. So why it's important to put your work out there. So it's basically starting with things like having a nice logo, having a nice slogan, having an interesting business name that carries meaning. If someone asks why that name, you can attach it to something. So it's about, creating a clear identity and reputation that makes, farmers, buyers, investors, partners, and customers know who you are, trust you, choose you, and even just by the way you carry out your business activities, being professional. So brand positioning, so who you are, what do you want people to immediately associate with your business? So for example, a modern reliable agribusiness producing quality food while creating opportunities for young women and young people. So maybe that's how you want to position yourself. And for example, product branding, what do you sell? So your produce shouldn't just be tomatoes from our farm, it can become recognizable product. So for example, the name, the packaging, the quality standards, consistent appearance, the story, and the promise to your customer. So Buyabamba, it's been in existence for years. So they've built a brand, they've built a reputation with in line with potatoes. Even if a brand of someone thinks of potatoes, they'll think, oh Buyabamba, you think of fish, you think of yalelo. So it's almost like a brand that is known in your mind. You think of something and you kind of know what to associate with it with. And storytelling, why should people care? So agriculture has powerful stories. So from the farmer, your own story, maybe you don't want to be in the limelight, but you can put out whatever you're trying to do, your activities on your farm, how you promote women, how you promote the youth, the story that you have to tell with your production. And you can talk of, food security, innovation, maybe climate smart practices. So what's the story behind what you're doing? And rural transformation. Sometimes branding or brand visibility, especially in the digital space, in the digital era, isn't all about just being on social media. There are some, opportunities that require to see, oh, do you have a website? Sometimes it's as simple as just having a website. Sometimes it's as simple as just having some form of media presence. So, and for you, um so specifically, you can even think of ways that you can position whatever you want to do. Is it whenever you're going to pitch your business, you're wearing branded clothing? This is something that I'm lacking on. You're wearing your brand. You're always in your brand. You go for a meeting, you're wearing whatever brand that it is. So those are key things to have in mind, especially with how you position yourself. And branding goes beyond. So why does branding matter? So agricultural products can easily become commodities. So if your customer sees your product exactly the same as everyone else's, they'll often choose based on price. So a strong brand helps you compete on more than price. It helps build trust, attract loyal customers, differentiate your products, increase perceived value. It will build also help build, customer loyalty. There are certain things that we say, this product, I'm only going to get the one from, maybe you see like different, what example can I give? So, for example, we have different milk brands. Then in your mind, you say, oh, I'm only going to buy milk from maybe one particular company. That's just an example. So, sometimes even trying to get whatever you do to that level, there's there's that famous tomato farm, the Triple Z from South Africa. So when you think of tomatoes, you think of those people, oh, quality tomatoes, good branding, the boxes. So even a way to differentiate ourselves. But of course, our markets are very different all across. When I think of the Zambian market in terms of agricultural consumption, in terms of a lot of things, we are different to a lot of other places. So sometimes that doesn't necessarily work. But what really helps with agriculture is places with very large populations. These actually do better. So branding can help you also access formal markets. It can also attract partnerships and investors, and it can also just create opportunities to expand into new product lines. And even just, a product is what you sell, a brand is why people choose you. So there also just, five pillars of an agricultural brand. So a purpose, why do you exist? Ask yourself this question. Why did I start this business? Why did you start or why do you want to start this business? So maybe for you it's to create employment, to produce better food, to solve a market problem, to build a profitable business, or to create employment, improve food security. So your purpose gives your business more meaning. It gives you more meaning for what you want to do. So position, what do you want to be known for? So you cannot be everything to everyone. So you can be known for your business being a consistent supplier of high quality vegetables. We are known for you're known for affordable and nutritious poultry products, or we are known for premium sustainably produced honey. We are known for, producing affordable food for Zambians, healthy food for Zambians, that kind of thing. So what do you want to be known for? So that is also key in whatever you want to do. What are you actually promising? So your brand must be supported by the product. If you promise premium, your product must look and taste premium. If you promise reliability, you must deliver on time, you must be a reliable supplier. If you promise freshness, your supply chain must protect freshness by all means. Maybe freshness, you have a refrigerated truck, you have a cold storage, so whatever it is. So never build a brand that your operations cannot support. So don't put it in a way that you can't even achieve that. So presentation, how does your business look? This includes the business name, the logo, the colors, the packaging, the labels, the uniforms, the farm signage, the social media, your invoices, you have business cards, you're organized, and good design attracts attention. Good service builds the brand. So, what happens after the customer buys? So, what experience does my customer have when dealing with me? Are you professional about how you do it? Are you responsive? Are you friendly? Are you polite? Are you reliable? Are you consistent? So, a customer who receives excellent service is more likely to return and also recommend you. Someone can say, "Oh, you're looking for ABCD. Actually, there are these people, they deliver vegetables." Or maybe like another line of business I've really been looking at is these people for matevetos, chilangamulilos. They actually are also a good market. There was a time I was actually approached by people who were having matevetos, and they wanted consistent supply of village chickens. And that's also a line where you can say, okay, this is our market, these are the people. You can even be telling maybe it's friends, families that, oh, I can be supplying vegetables for your functions and those things. So those are ways you can look into it. And like we said, what do you promise? And then as part of the activities, those, if you don't have a logo, I want you to create a logo. Find someone to help you create a logo. Build a brand identity. Define what your brand stands for. So, write your brand promise. Choose three words that describe your brand. See how you can package, present yourself. See how you can have a digital footprint. You don't even have to be there, you don't even have to put your face there. Everybody's different. See how you can have just that digital footprint or that authentic farm story that you want to share. And compare. What we can do is, see, how do I build this brand? How do I build our farm brand? How do we become recognizable? So in agriculture, we often focus more on production, well, just production oriented, but building an agribusiness also means learning how to make your product valuable, recognizable, and trusted. So don't just grow a product, grow a reputation, grow a functional business. I sat with a family business, and they are known for consistent production. Their main line of business, they're known for growing lots of potatoes, and they've consistently built onto that brand. And you can be known for something. So build a reputation, build an agricultural brand that eventually will do the talking for you, will do the selling for you. So I will share just a few questions to ask yourselves, even just by the end of this class. Let's see, will you have a logo? If you don't have a logo, will you have a tagline? Will you have a business name? And if if you also want to do packaging, be consistent in your packaging. Make sure it's consistent, it's recognizable. Packaging is a silent salesperson. It will just speak for you. There's someone that I used to get. She used to do a range of spices, And when I tell you that packaging, you'd even wonder, was this product packed in Zambia? Beautiful packaging. I just don't know what happened. But very consistent. Not one day it's packaging that's beautiful, the next it's this funny packaging from Kamwala, the next it's plastics. You don't even know what you're trying to do, what you're trying to stand for. So consistency is key. I think there is Kobo Foods. They do very nice packaging, all ranges of packaging for almost anything you can even think of. Even things that you don't even imagine, they can be able to make a solution for you. So for those, there are several things that you can go into. They also have the likes of things like tea bags. You can actually package your own tea bags made from lemongrass, growing mint. There's so much. Their packaging is very interesting. And these are things you can just simply do. And I think we've talked about layouts of things, especially if you want to. Last week we covered global gap, especially if you want to get into packaging, export. So if you're looking at stuff like that, having a clean environment, they have wonderful products. So stand out. And this just even helps. There are other grocery stores, there are direct consumers. There are just ways in which you can go about packaging your stuff. But if you have a supplier that has their own packaging, they want consistency. If you go in, for example, you go in ShopRite, the how they know who the farmer is we all have unique codes. So they know that this code, for example, our code was 3010. We can be five suppliers of green beans. They'll know that 3010 belongs to Sianga Farms, right? 3070 belongs to, I don't know, whoever it belongs to. 30 whatever belongs to another supplier. But one thing that they did is I would have my own packaging. This other farmer would have their own packaging. To have a consistent brand, to have a consistent, you you as the consumer wouldn't really know that that code represents the farm that it came from. But the packaging is the same, and you'd think, oh, it's ShopRite beans, it's ShopRite what? But the suppliers are different. So that's how they keep a consistent name, they keep the consistency, they keep the brand consistent, and that's what it is. Having that consistency in what you do. So another thing is document. Don't just tell people, oh, we are the best at what we do. You can show testimonials. You have repeat customers, photos of deliveries, photos just documenting, oh, this is what we've done. And I can even give you an example, just from me using social media. I'm able to leverage customers. If I need to sell something, I can say, okay, let me just try and promote it on social media. Sometimes you even pay for social media to boost a post so that it reaches a wider audience who is looking for your product. So those are some ways you can use media to even find wider audiences for what you're doing. But you've already been creating this story, you know, production processes. So build social proof, show results, let your customers help also build your reputation. So being responsive, which is something that I try to reckon. Sometimes you get overloaded with lots of messages, emails. So I try by all means to be responsive. Response on time. A customer should feel that this is a serious business. So don't copy another farmer's brand. Look at competitors for inspiration, but don't become a cheaper version of someone else. Or you see someone uses this tagline, even you go and copy it. So just try by all means. You can gain inspiration. We gain inspiration from so many people, but try by all means to be authentic. So your farm doesn't have to look perfect. Show the real businesses. Be intentional. Show production. Um, talk of growth, delivery, packaging. So you're building trust. You're building authority. And even as you document some of these things, you're not doing it for just content, but you're doing it just to create a digital print to a bit of traceability. So some of these things are important as you are growing big businesses, as you are taking things to the next level. And what other thing is important? So I will share these bits on branding just a minute. So be as you're building your brand, be where people can easily find you, whether it's a phone number, you've advertised something, put a phone number, put a location, whether it's an email address, information, put everything there so that someone doesn't have to struggle. And then make it easy for someone to go from, oh, I heard about you from, you can be like, oh, I found you, or online I bought from you, and such things. So don't another thing is don't overpromise your customers. So a large audience sometimes doesn't automatically mean a strong business. So measure comes from repeat customers, it comes from revenue, customer retention, orders, inquiries. So yeah, the thing is that sometimes you can have the media engagement, but that doesn't necessarily mean that those are customers or they can be customers. So also for your customers, give them an experience, share an experience, whether it's a little thank you card, whether it's clean packaging, clear communication. The other week I was doing seed deliveries, and it was quite difficult because it's communicating with a lot of people. It's being clear in communication, trying by all means to make sure that the product reaches the person who's bought the product. We do it on time. Not very easy because I at some point I was away and delegated the task, and sometimes delegation doesn't go very well, or people don't follow through in terms of following up on their products. So um another thing is like we've been talking about, how do we speak to customers, how do we handle complaints, how do you manage situations. So you have to also try by all means to also just protect your reputation. One unhappy customer can tell many. Try not to argue publicly, don't ignore complaints, try by all means to do fair, honest business. Try by all means. So use partnerships to strengthen your brand, being associated with credible organizations. Like I said, sometimes you also just need the backing of an organization. Try join an association. um so choose partnerships that also add to your credibility, doing that just also help with visibility. So don't exaggerate your brand. If you have 2 hectares, don't create the impression that you operate at 200. Just be very honest with what you do. There are people, they exaggerate what they're doing. So sometimes just be authentic and be proud of where you are. If you're starting, just say you're starting. you know Also, think beyond the farm gate. A strong brand can eventually expand. One day we'll reach the export market. That is one day. So, also build an emotional connection. Why should customers care about this business? Maybe you're creating jobs for women, maybe you're preserving local food. I love to preserve indigenous knowledge. So it's indigenous seeds, our traditional maize seeds, indigenous trees. That's one thing that I'm very passionate about. Maybe you're producing nutritious food that is grown organically. So think about, all of those things. What gives you so much passion to do what you're doing? Why are you passionate about doing it? So don't wait until your business is successful for it to look professional. You can build reputation while you're starting small. I have a friend, they started this business, and when they started it, it the presentation was so big. I used to even think, oh, it's probably just, a family business. But the way they handled the professionalism, the way they handled the business so well, and it's them, these are young people who have very serious partnerships with large organizations, and you'd wonder, how do they do it? So it's the manner in which they handle all their affairs, the professionalism in which they do all of these things. So this is just key as people starting up, as people doing it. It really starts with the small things: presentation, positioning, how you carry out most of these activities. It's as simple as branding t-shirts, simple as a branded receipt book, simple as, just small little things. And these things begin to build on. You just have to start operating that business like it's a multi million-dollar business even before it is, and you keep those systems, those habits. So it's when building a brand, you're creating systems. And building a brand doesn't require you to just be always out there, but just build that name, build that presence, build that credibility. Even if it's not a social media that will, be viral, you have that presence. You have that presence, you have that form of documentation, or just simply having a website that people can appreciate, have a look at. You put your products, you put your services, whether it's services, and people can just really appreciate what you're doing. So branding necessarily doesn't mean you have to be in the limelight, but you are also taking your business seriously, or handling all your matters seriously. So there is a short activity I want you all to do, and it also, these activities would just be, you know dependent on the level at which your business is operating at. So I'll send the questions in the group, and you can just have a few and an appreciation. And on our last lesson, what we are going to do is, in just a few minutes, you're going to have a 2-minute business pitch answering. Whether you've started or not started, you're going to say who you are, what does your business do, what problem you're solving, who your customers are, what makes you different, what kind of support or opportunity are you looking for. So we can actually do this for our Thursday session, and then I'll send the instructions. So we also have a financial record keeping assignment. So this will be a 7-day challenge. So those already in business, the challenge is you record every sale, every expense, money received, money spent, outstanding payments, and then you can also just see what you discovered that doing that exercise. Even if it's after, just try this challenge, just try. And then we can do a market access activity so that we are more interactive and interacting with each other, um where you can, identify potential customers or products. And for example, we say supermarkets, the kind of products. And yeah, so we can just do little activities so that we are more interactive. I will share the steps, and some people have also been sending their assignments. So we are going to do a little activity, especially for our graduation. We have just small prizes for, the activities. And some people are sending me the small assignments that are following after the first guide. And we have small awards we'll give to people during the graduation ceremony. So let's take note of. Oh yeah, Thursday we have elections. I've completely forgot. So we'll see how to adjust our class because now we have two more classes. So we see how we adjust, whether we do it after the voting period. Maybe we can do a poll on that and I can get suggestions from you all so I don't impose. But on my side, we are done with the lesson. But does anybody have any questions, any contributions? Please, the floor is open just before we close. Okay, Wednesday is still okay. Do we have any questions? Okay, is it Mr. Chola James?
Chola James, that's my father's name. The James Party is my father's name.
Oh,
I'm a
okay.
lady.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes,
You. Good
madam.
evening.
Good evening.
Yes, good evening. So after the last lesson we had, today I
Mm-hmm.
implemented because I was just letting the ladies just work, plant, weeding anyhow. So today I gave each woman a portion and I
Mm-hmm.
even labeled